portfolio.
Wait until tomorrow. And then we have Mr. C. Good morning, Mr. C.
Good morning, Yaya. Good morning, Valentine. Good morning, guys. Good morning, Lagos.
Good morning to you.
All right, you can join the conversation as well through these platforms.
Yes. WhatsApp is 0809 444 0981. That's the WhatsApp number. For messages, 0809 444 0981. We're on Twitter at Smooth981FM. The hashtag is freshly pressed 981. You can also send us messages through our YouTube channel. To subscribe, just type Smooth981FM Lagos in the search box. We'll pop right up.
All right, fantastic. So let's go straight into our story. Interesting one here. Yesterday, we saw the news break about the controversy trailing EFCC's search of Ambode's house. We saw the news about EFCC's search of Ambode's house, and this morning we look at the headline from Premium Times with the controversy trailing it. So the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has denied claims that its operatives attempted to plant foreign currencies in the home of the former Lagos State Governor Akinwumi Ambode. Now, they made this in a statement yesterday evening, and the EFCC said an attempt by its operatives to search Mr. Ambode's home in Ekpe was resisted by hoodlums loyal to the governor. Adedumade, let's talk about this, please.
All right. So, according to Premium Times, the gist is this: EFCC searched or had warrants to search two of Ambode's properties, one in Parkview and one in what's that place called? Is it Badagry or Ekpe? In Ekpe, yes. So they searched the one in Parkview successfully. They didn't find anything. Then they proceeded to Ekpe. Now, on getting to Ekpe, they were met by a number of young people in the community who were interested in the object of their search, or in the objective of their search. And according to the story, this youth told them that, okay, you're going to search the premises, no problem, but we have to search you first, which they did. And this is one thing I like Nigerians to note. When the police is coming to search you, either your property, your premises, your car, you have a right to search them first, right?
Great. And that's coming from a lawyer, by the way. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, great. And also, the search should be supervised, meaning they cannot just tell you to wait outside and they go in and search your premises by themselves. Someone from your team has to be there with them. So that being said, they searched the operatives. The operatives also collected the phones of the people that were going to go in and search with them. And they said, okay, only one person can take a phone in. That is the EFCC operative who is going to be recording everything. But however, the youth said the EFCC operatives had a blue bag with them. And they insisted that they search the contents of that blue bag before they went in. And that is where the EFCC people there said that they were not going to allow them, and that's when they started to have an argument. Now, the EFCC has denied that what was in that bag was not foreign currencies and that they did not try to plant anything. But what EFCC failed to do was actually address the issue of the bag itself. Okay, it was not foreign currencies, it was this. What was that? They didn't tell us. So because they have provided little or no information as to what was what the contents of the bags were, we can as well just go with what the people have said, that whatever was in that bag was suspicious. So EFCC has not, in my opinion, satisfied the onus on them to show that they went there without any ill intent. Now, it's also proper, or not, well, maybe not proper, but it's reasonable for people to think that this search against Ambode, or this supposed investigation against Ambode, is sort of related to the elections and his attitude during that election.
Yeah, but these are just speculations.
Speculations, yes, but we can speculate when there is no evidence to the contrary, because we know what our agencies are used to doing. So they don't have facts, they don't have figures, they don't have evidence. In some cases, yes. Then
such heavy hits.
No, I'm just saying, but just to wrap this up and not take too much time, I believe that our agencies need to up their game. You don't arrest, then investigate. You investigate, then arrest.
We've emphasized this a number of times on the show, but thanks a lot for reiterating that. We have some comments.
Yes, Tolu from Lekki says, did you watch the video going around on social media about SARS operatives in Ikondo, who allegedly indiscriminately shot suspected robbers? I saw that video, but it's on the stories this morning, so we'll talk about that much later. This one is from Henny. It's a long message. We'll go through it in time. Thank you very much. One who Ernest says, spot on. They should have disclosed the real content of the bag. I feel we are being taken for a ride by some of these agencies. Thank you, Warner.
Thank you. Let's move on to our next story. Divo, I'll come to you. Taraba killing, update on that. Wadume has been arrested. Now, suspected kidnap kingpin, Mr. Hamisu Bala alias Wadume, has made a shocking revelation of how soldiers allegedly shot and killed operatives of the Inspector General Police's Intelligence Response Team shortly after effecting his arrest in Ibi community of Taraba State. Please take us to the story.
This is the stuff of Nollywood scripts, creatively crafted for a very good movie. I think within the last 2 weeks, we've been getting details on this saga that took place in Taraba with the killing of some policemen allegedly by the military, of which really riled up the police against them, given the fact that they claimed that they had also indicated that they were carrying out official duties. Now, at this point, it was, I think, within the past 2 days, the police were able to make a rearrest of alias Wadume, which was the suspected kingpin that was released by the military allegedly. Now, as the widening investigation increases with the recapture and joint prosecution, because as you do know that the police as well as trying to prosecute this kidnapped kingpin, they also have an issue with the military to sort out. Now, beyond the case of insecurity, which has to deal with the kidnapping and what they were trying to resolve, the real issue here at stake is the interagency collaboration, and that is of high import because to succeed in this war against insurgency and insecurity, with the little and almost, I would like to say, inadequate resources that we have, you cannot afford to have a breakdown in integration or synergies of the security forces at play. Of both agencies making claims and accusations and blames that it wasn't us. Oh, well, it was us, but you didn't tell us up front. No, we did tell you, etc. And in this case, for those who watched the video, Alas Wadume was implicating the army and saying that they did take him to their barracks, they released him, etc. Blah, blah, blah. However, I mean, the army hasn't responded.
Yes.
We're not sure whether they're going to agree to that or whether they would give it some other form of coloration. However, I think just like in all forms of insecurity that we face, our armies need to be in one accord. They have organs within themselves to be able to resolve this as fast as possible.
Thank you very much, Ivo. All right, court summons DSS police over Shore, others detention. Guardian has this news story. I'll come to you, Adedumadi, for this one. A federal high court in Lagos yesterday ordered the Department of State Services, DSS, and IG of police to appear before it on September 4 over Omoyele Shore's arrest and detention. What's going on here, please?
Okay, first off, I would like to note that the DSS obtained a motion, or the court granted the DSS a motion that was filed via ex parte to hold on to Shore for another 45 days. Now, we are now before another federal high court, who is now making a pronouncement on the same issues. And this is where you get the conflict at the end of the day. But that being said, I want to stress that the lawyer here, Mr. Olukoya Ogugbeje, is actually a colleague and former classmate. He's also the one that said he was going to, that represented the alleged kidnapper Evans, and he got a lot of brouhaha for that. But he has always been this kind of a gentleman, always even right from school. Now, the DSS, oh, sorry. There was one thing I also wanted to point out from this story.
Okay.
Now, the court here, or Mr. Ogugbeje here, applied via motion ex parte.
Yes.
For what he's asking for the prayers here, asking for the release of all the people that were arrested, for the release Shore as well. And the court said something. The court said that, that they want to hear from the federal government first. Now, an ex parte means that you go to court by yourself without telling the other party. And when you put the party on notice, that is when they can now be heard. So the court did the right thing here. But I want to mention that usually the federal government is used to going to the court via ex parte applications and getting those applications granted without giving the other party the right to fair hearing. I would like to state that this is actually the right way to go. Other parties should be allowed. Although the law allows you to go via ex parte sometimes, but other parties should be allowed to state their case before the court. Now, this now goes back to the right to protest, the fundamental right to hear your views, and also the law that says that you cannot overthrow the government, which is treason.
Yes.
Now, Showore is being investigated for treasonable offenses, according to the DSS. They are saying that he tried to overthrow the government, and that's why he's still being held. And that's why they've even gone back to court to appeal for the order that gave them 45 days, because they initially wanted 90 days. So they've gone back to appeal that what they actually want is 90 days, not 45 days. And this still goes back to the point I made when I was talking about the first story. So they have not completed their investigations, but they want to hold him indefinitely. I think this is wrong. I think this is a breach of his fundamental rights. And I believe that Nigerians need to speak up more when these kind of things happen, especially when they are done by our security agencies.
From a legal perspective, Adeduma, did they have enough grounds to keep him? Or, I mean, the court had granted them 90 days.
No, 50.
Pardon?
50.
I beg your pardon, 50. Now, would they have enough grounds to hold him on this? For this
I have not read the application they filed, so I do not even know the grounds they have posited to have it, in the first place. But for them to still, but the basic gist here is that they're saying that they've not concluded investigations, and they still want to continue to conclude their investigations while holding on to Shore. I believe that is wrong. If you want to investigate. Then after that, at least we saw what the FBI did in the Invictus case, and we saw the that they filed. So come on, let us up our game, please.
Thank you very much. Kizito Ugu on Twitter says, wow, I can demand to search the police. Well, I will still advise people to tread with caution.
No, it's your right.
Yes, it's their right. This is his opinion. Of the police are trigger happy. Please, where in the Constitution can I find this? And then on YouTube, Emmanuel Sunny says, the rearrest of kidnapped kingpin is an indication that the Nigerian police force can actually work if they want to work. Is it because of, this affects them directly?
All right, more stories. Let's move on to this one from the Punch newspaper. Supreme Court dismisses articles INEC server claim. We know how this court processes, went so far. We know that the People's Democratic Party candidate, presidential candidate Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, had contested the election that brought forward President Buhari, for a second term. We have seen the whole process go to this point, but the tribunal had, in its June 24th, 2019 ruling delivered during the pre-hearing session of the petition, dismissed the petitioner's application for access to the server. Now, this new update shows us that decision has been upheld by the five-man panel. Your thoughts on this, Diego?
Yeah, that's the Supreme Court. Now, just let's break it down for people so you understand. One, remember the PDP's plea was that the petition was that the results of the presidential election that we all participated in was not authentic, right? Based on the fact that the content of the server contained the real results, right? And then also alleged on the non-qualification of Buhari as in terms of the certificate issue. Now, which were reviewed during the electoral tribunal, INEC denied the existence of the server and then insisted that they never transmitted results till date. I'm sure many of us are still debating that. Now, thirdly, the Supreme Court, having reviewed this with the five-man panel, they did come out and say that they would not exercise or interfere discretion with the lower courts except if it was done wrongly. All right. Now, what basically saying that what the lower court's position was correct, and that the courts established the wrongful exercise of discretion. Now, basically, this was based on insufficient evidence. Left to me, right? Honestly, I didn't really see a hardcore case that the PDP presented. I really was expecting them to really come out with more evidence, because if you notice, they closed the first few days. It seemed as if it was going nowhere, and all the while we really thought that there was something. Now the truth is, PDP does have its right; they have exercised that. But the truth is, according to the law, because we operate by that, if you don't have evidence to uphold your plea, it's going nowhere. And this is usually the problem. So even if we have our views, and I'm sure everybody knows how it goes down.
How does it go down?
That's a figure of speech.
Because if you say everybody knows, you're assuming that we all know.
Yes, because we do.
Right?
We.
I asked this question. Sorry.
Let me lay a few. Let me lay a few points. We were here that many of the INEC staff did claim that when you vote on the PVC, that's going to be transmitted electronically from the PVC to the central server. It's all on tape. It's not hidden. At the end of the day, they claim that they didn't have a server. It doesn't really hold water in the eyes of Nigerians.
Which is what I was going to point out, that there were reports credited to the Independent National
No,
Electoral
credited.
Commission.
Everybody saw them. It was public. It wasn't hidden.
So I mean, which begged the question at the initial stage, why this case had to go to court, the Election Petitions Tribunal in the first place. So a lot of gray areas, in the whole procedure. But Mr. C, you wanted to add a thought?
Sorry, I disagree with the tribunal, and this is why I say so.
It's a tribunal that was set up to.
Yeah, no.
Well, the Supreme Court.
They're fallible. They get it wrong. Yeah. So the PDP alleges that there was a server used in which the results were transmitted to. INEC simply says we don't have a server and we didn't transmit anything, and the tribunal is ruling on that point. And the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal upheld the finding of the tribunal. Now, will a mere denial be enough to refute or rebut that accusation?
But then it behooves on the person who's appealing to provide evidence to substantiate his claim, which is what they're saying essentially, that there's no substance to this.
I'm pretty sure in other countries you would have given an order to inspect the computer equipment.
Which is proving beyond reasonable doubt. And that's what I was talking about. We know how it goes. This is a lot of reasonable doubt, because everybody understands how the INEC system. It was explained to each and every one of us, not speaking by hearsay or by figment of the imaginations of our mind. Don't worry, we'll get to the next election. Let's see what happens.
All right. Thank you very much, Divo. Move on to our next story. And this one is, we touched on this story actually during Business Express 91 with Reuters. Irish firm ready to seize Nigeria's 2.9 trillion naira assets in the Guardian newspaper. Adedumade, can you please give us the detail of this story?
Okay, so when I read that they were ready to seize Nigeria's property, I was kind of wondering how they were going to do it, because trying to think of how we do it here. Now, when we do executions here for judgment sums, it's kind of like an action film, with lots of policemen, lots of court bailiffs, lots of properties being seized, and sometimes lots of infighting. So I'm wondering how they're going to do it. Probably they're just going to pull up to the Nigerian embassy and start to tour our cars, and start to lock the buildings and pack up the computers. But I still don't know how they plan to execute that, but that's going to be interesting. However, it's also good to note that our Oji, who also speaks on this show, was actually in court on the day this matter was decided in the UK. And there's been a couple of mistakes Nigeria has made from the very beginning. First of all, there was an arbitration, right, that held Nigeria liable. It is note that there was a Nigerian on that arbitration panel. So Bayer Ojo SAN, and they held, that is E and other two persons who were non-Nigerians, and they held that Nigeria was liable to the company, right? Now, Nigeria filed an appeal, but they filed it late. And when they went back to court several months later, about 3 or 4 months after, this is probably when time had gone, when time had finished running for them to appeal, they claimed, this is in 2015, they claimed that it was because ministers had not been appointed and there was some backlog and they could not instruct a firm of solicitors to take on the case. But you will note that they also made that same mistake in 2019 because the court gave another order in the election cycle period, and well, we don't have our ministers yet. So I don't think we learn as a country, really, and I don't think that okay, what I think we did is we took our Nigerianness to the UK courts.
Indiscipline.
And that doesn't work there.
Tardiness.
They don't look at things the way we do. So we just went to court thinking, oh, we'll just go there and appeal. But there are rules and procedures to follow, which we failed to follow. Anyway, so now also instructive to note that the sum was not even up to this amount in the first place.
Yes.
It was about 800 and something million.
$850 million.
Yes, but we allowed it get to this stage because, in fact, that 850 was a settlement. So the issue had been in court. Nigeria had gone to have a discussion with these people, and we had reached a settlement. And say, okay, we're going to pay you 850. Now, Buhari's government came in, and they now went a total 180 on that agreement and said, okay, now we're going to court. And those guys, okay, if you're going to court, we'll go back to court. But when you go to court to appeal, the damages continues to run because the prayer that the lawyer will give in court is that at the time of judgment, right, the amount that is liable to them should be calculated with interest.
So that accrued interest. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adedumade. A message from Comrade Henry here on WhatsApp. It says, dear, good morning, guys. On the UK $9 billion asset seizure belonging to Nigeria in a gas dispute, the president should not be blamed because he's not a lawyer. Instead, the Attorney General should take the bulk of the blame for not advising him appropriately. In my estimate, my submission and knowledge in international relations, the implication is that all assets belonging to Nigeria, including her monies coming into the country, its embassies abroad, foreign reserve and crude being transported across international routes, may be confiscated until their aforesaid money is recovered. Although Nigeria has the right of appeal, but such would not hold water, as no international court would reverse or go against itself. It is not a domestic law where the government would decide which law to obey or not. The next story is for you, Mr. C. Nigeria, Saudi Arabia to sign a memorandum of understanding on accident investigation. It's a report from the Punch newspaper. It covers a few areas. We know that in Nigeria, it's worrisome, not a bit. The FRS had put a tag on road accidents. They're saying in 2015 alone, about 5,400 people died. In 2017, about 5,053 deaths. Not just for road accidents, but also investigations on air traffic disasters. What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so first of all, the Accident Investigation Bureau is a federal government agency set up to investigate accidents. But so far, they seem to focus mainly on air accidents, and they haven't started investigating marine accidents or road accidents. Now, the interest started to sign agreements with a number of countries, and Saudi Arabia is the latest country. The idea is each country brings in, we get to train our investigators with the knowledge they pass on, and hopefully this knowledge will translate to safety, increased safety in the skies, on our roads, on our seas. I think it's a commendable effort, and I only wish them the best.
Really? Well, thank you. Let's move on now very quickly to this next story from the Vanguard newspaper. Federal government sets up joint border task force to tackle insecurity. Devo, your thoughts on this story? We see a collaboration with the agencies involved, and they are saying that when we see certain movement of military formations, it shouldn't be a cause for alarm.
Yes, this is as a reaction to the growing and the, what I call it, major insecurity going on in the country. This is what we refer to as a government Voltron. But they have tagged the task force as X with response. This was coming from the public relations officer of the Nigerian Customs, that there's an intersecurity task force that's being set up in 4 geopolitical zones. Now, the interagency task force includes the customs, the immigration, the armed forces, that's the military, and the police as usual. They will come together reporting under the Office of the National Security Advisor, that's ONSA. For those who don't remember, that was where Dasuki was. Now, the zones involved are the South-South, the Southwest, the North Central, and the Northwest. So you can see that the Northeast has been given its own particular, that's usually where the insurgency is taking place.
Yes.
Now, the objective is to tackle the insecurity, which covers terrorism, banditry, smuggling, and arms trafficking. That's the proliferation of arms. Now, we do know it's a fact. Nigerian borders are porous. You can walk in and out uninhibited. And there's easy passage for legit human beings as well as the criminal ones, which have been the source of the problem. And major economic losses and sabotage takes place across our borders. I mean, for those who know what goes around the Seme border, for those who know what goes along I think it's Ondo states, all the crude and then the petroleum products that move from those sides, and those who know all the commodities that pass through the borders that align the northwest as well. So we're hoping that with this united firm or united task team that they can assume some level of control. However, I think they should have, because it's not just a security problem. There is a level of infrastructure that's required to get our borders working properly. Just take, for example, I mean, beyond the ones that most people do not are familiar with, Semen border on its own is not a proper infrastructure. I mean, you just need to ask people who have passed through it the calamity of a border within West Africa's largest commodity and economic passage. It's just dilapidated. So I think beyond the security aspect, they require the efforts of some level of infrastructure to ensure that their efforts are supported, and that the follow-up to those efforts in capturing some of these things are given some logical conclusion, so that we can begin to see some organization around our borders.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ada on WhatsApp says, good morning all. So Auntie Diazani can be searched, Uncle Ambode can be searched, so
Before.
it can be harassed and held without cause, and yes, INEC cannot be searched, investigated, or instructed to prove beyond reasonable doubt that they do not have the server that the same INEC posted about. Very good. It will not be forgotten. Again, a slippery slope. I hope we're taking notes. We cannot be unfazed or unmoved. Thank you, Ada, for your. A quick look at the next story from the Punch newspaper. The European Union has said that a total of 89.80 billion naira was invested in the Nigerian health sector in the last 17 years, especially since 2002. We know that the health sector has been really needing funding, has needed attention for a long time. By this revelation, right, the statistics given by the EU, do you think it has had any significant effect on the Nigerian health sector, or not? What could be your opinion really regarding this, Mr. C?
Well, congratulations to the EU. They really helped us in transforming our health sector, because we're all witnesses to the poor funding of the health sector over the years. It's just that I do not have the facts now, but it'll be interesting to note what the corresponding federal government budget for health in the same period was. Now, it's instructive to note that despite this amount of funding, Nigeria still lost 200,000 children annually due to lack of access to vaccinations. And there's a project they were running which has ended. It was being run in 23 states. So we encourage them to continue to help us, because for some reason we can't get it right ourselves. And this is a clarion call to the federal government that in subsequent budget, you need to increase the funding for health. Because if you do not have citizens who are alive and healthy, the country is not going to grow, the economy is not going to get better. It's not magic.
It's part of the SDGs, that's Sustainable Development Goals for 2020. Do you see us getting even close to that target by then? It's just a few months away.
No, sorry.
All right, let's move. Let's take a few comments before we go. Tutu says it's not INEC's responsibility to prove that they have a server. PDP alleged that INEC used the server to collect and transmit results, so it's PDP's responsibility to prove their claim.
Incorrect. INEC submitted a budget for servers. They were paid for the servers. The servers were installed, so it's their business to prove that the election they conducted was done properly.
Thank you.
Formula James from Ladipo says, good morning, guys. On Ambode versus the FCC, kudos to the guys who didn't allow the FCC to plant whatever it was in the blue bag in Ambode's house. It's very clear we do not have a genuine system in the country and have a long way to go. Dami said, just fix the roads and a large percentage of the accidents will go. Now Nigeria needs to pay me for this great idea, rather than paying for an expert to tell them the same thing.
I think Nigeria needs to pay us in the studio, including our wonderful analysts. Thank you so much, Adedumade, for coming on the show. Adedumade is at Adedumade on Twitter, Devo Okore at Devo Okore on Twitter, and Mr. C at MISTAC with 5 E's on Twitter. And you can follow us collectively at Smooth91 FM. Use the hashtag Fresh Freshly Pressed 981 to continue the conversation. Don't forget, at 9 a.m., we take one of these stories and we look at it in detail with you calling in with your thoughts and opinions. Good morning.
Mr. C, I'm your first follower
Are you
Okay.
kidding?
on Twitter.
You just joined